listening to your people, listening to your customers, listening to the people within the organization is super, super critical. We recognize people by giving them more responsibilities. So for cultural differences to work is that extra layer of humility and empathy.
To keep the momentum and keeping the excitement and looking for how to improve, just keep asking questions.
Asking questions, that's why I love the word curiosity. It's about challenging the status quo.
Yeah.
To deal with it's not just culture. Sometimes it's also different personalities that you have to navigate. Learning how to develop a coherent way of even reading the weak signals, understanding where is the industry going, where is your team going, what are the main area of blockage, or where is the next thing and a big thing is going to happen, pardon me, is what makes great leaders greater.
Welcome to Leadership in Manufacturing Podcast. I'm your host, Sannah Vinding. I'm a strategic leader with over 20 years of experience in B2B marketing, product development, and team empowerment. And I'm passionate about sharing insights to help you enhance your leadership skills and become a much better leader. So, in today's episode, we're diving into the world of smart home technology, automation, and leadership with Michael Lotfy Gierges. We will explore his insight and his approach to people-centric leadership in a global organization. Let me tell you a little bit about Michael. He's an executive vice president at the home and distribution division at Schneider Electric. And with over 20 years of experience in energy management, he's a key leader in driving sustainability and innovation in home energy solutions. Known for his people-centric leadership, Michael is passionate about addressing climate change and making sustainable home accessible through technology. He's committed to talent development and diversity, and this you can see because he's mentoring young leaders to drive a positive change. So welcome, Michael. I'm so happy to have you here today.
No, thank you very much for this very kind introduction. I'm very excited to be here with you on this very, very successful and broad broadcast. So I'm excited about today's conversation.
Oh, me too. We have to learn so much and share it. That's like what I love. So I'm always excited when I meet somebody new to hear, what do they love about the industry? So I want to ask you, what excites you about the electronics industry and where's your passion, in working in this field?
What I love about the industry, which ironically enough, I can actually at this point in my life and my age, I think I dedicated my life to more or less, is you make a direct impact on people's lives. You solve existential problems in a lot of cases. When I started my career working in high voltage substations and medium voltage substation, you're providing electricity to underserved communities, to countries or societies that are under electrified and so on. And fast forward 20 years later, what I love about it is I do impact on everybody's in everybody's life, because now we are talking about energy transition, we're talking about renewable energy, we're talking about sustainability, which is the main driver to help the global warming. So what I love about industry, that it has a direct impact on not just humanity, but the well-being of humanity and the well-being of the planet in an extended manner. So, and the great things about electrification, electricity has become just like air and water, a necessity of life. And when you work in such a field, then of course you get excited every day going to work, because then you say, okay, what type of impact I'm going to make today? And in Schneider Electric, we strive ourselves for being impact makers. And in my job, when I work with everything that has to do with homes and buildings, every day we develop something, we build something, or we install something in somebody's home or in somebody's building. We're making that direct impact. So I love being in it, and I love being in the middle of all that.
Yeah, no, I like it. I think it's when I'm traveling, and I'm sure you travel a lot, I can see that. It's like you need a good bed, right? And you need the good Wi-Fi by the hotels, but you also need to make sure, with all your devices, whatever you're using, that you have your you have your power, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it's a necessity, right? Okay, I want to go a little bit deeper on you to learn about your leadership style. So have your leadership style changed over the last couple of years?
Of course, I'm not. I say this with all humility. Like all of us, I always say this about myself. I say it to my team. I say it to my colleagues. I say it to our customers and our partners. I'm always, as an individual, I'm always a work in progress. Let alone my leadership style.
Yeah.
And For me, the most critical part of my leadership is that, I'm Mediterranean by birth. Grew up in Egypt, so I'm all about the people because they are not only the main driver. I think, in my humble opinion, they are the greatest asset of any company, of any industry, or any technology. I mean, we are what we make, and we make what we are, right? So having really people as the center of everything I do, thinking about the people, and the typical dilemma between kind versus nice. For me, people are everything. Now, that does not mean that we don't build the highest performing team, but it does mean that you build the highest performing team with ethical foundation, a moral foundation of humility, empathy, partnership, collaboration, the win-win mindset and mentality, and go win mindset mentality. So I strive in every day, and when with my team or with our extended partners and customers, is how do we create this culture of, we are going to be extremely kind to one another. We are going to be humble and empathetic. We're going to have understanding, but we're here to work, and we're here to deliver something bigger than us. And how do we do this in the most perfect manner? Is what all my leadership style is about. I mean, if you look at my organization alone, I have thousands of people in my team that are depending on the decisions that my leadership team and myself do. So there is a greater sense of responsibility, humility, and understanding, but also a big drive for performance and delivering results for our customers and our shareholders.
Yeah. So any example you can share, because this sounds amazing, right? Because this is like the whole people-centric leader, right? To be that front runner and making sure that everybody are nice to each other. But I'm sure you have some KPIs, or you have, goals that you need to achieve. So anything you can share to say this, when I did this, A or B, that actually impacted a lot, or that changed the way the team is working together?
No, absolutely. I think the most profound thing is that, for example, if I look at us in Schneider Electric today, we have had major transformation in the way we operate and the way we structure our team. So we moved to those global hubs where I have in my team a team in North America serving North America, a team in Europe serving Europe, and a team in the international market serving international market, and a team in China serving China. But that can also mean that you have silos in your organization, that they don't talk to one another because they have all the domain and they don't want to partner because they have the priorities, they have their circumstances and their market that they need to address, which is part of the power of that model. But on the downside is the silos that can happen. And what we've done, I think, together with the fantastic leadership team that I have, is that we started to think about, okay, this model is great and it serves our customer in a phenomenal way. We are very disruptive in the way we bring innovations because we're closer to the market, closer to the customer. But how can we solve for the challenge that we will have silos in those teams? And the way we did it is we kind of at the beginning forced a collaborative culture. Like if somebody is working on a deal or a project or an innovation topic in one side of the globe, they will actually have to peer review it with some people from the opposite side of the globe. Like, hey, I have a great idea for the US. It's awesome. We can do this and we can do that. And I say, it's amazing. Did you discuss it with your colleague in Australia? And they will look at me like, are you crazy, Australia?
And yes. Do you know the time zone? No.
With the time zone and all the challenges. But, it actually created an incredible cohesive working culture because they get to share and learn the different perspective of the different countries and the different cultures. Number one. Number two, you can really, because those other people in the other part of the globe think very differently about solving a problem. In 9 out of 10 times, you actually get, you get those aha moments where you say, we did not think about that, but that is coming. Or we actually thought about that because we are maybe 3-4 years ahead of you in that regard. So the other team will be, maybe we should prepare for that and we should drive that change. That's number one. Number two, because I love what you said about the time zones, it created that sense of understanding that we tend not to have in big complex organization, is that my domain, my working schedule, my routine, my working hours. While when you are working, when you have those collaborative cultures, you say, you know what, I'm going to wake up very early to have a call with my colleagues in Asia, because you know what? This is already going to be very late. So if I start my call at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. in the morning, it is already dinner time for them. And that creates what I said, the kind versus nice. The kind versus nice culture is, one thing is to be kind and commute and have a dispute and a difference of opinion in a constructive, cohesive way. And the nice is that you say, and then you go do your own thing. And that's what I always say, be kind, don't be nice, because nice gets you in a stagnant. But kind gets you to collaborate and have this difference of opinion, this challenging one another, and it strives for the best. The other thing that we did, we work in a multinational company. If you look at my leadership team, both on gender diversity and ethnic diversity, our team is super diverse. And that creates a lot of great dynamics. And I don't want to be another guy that comes to talk about DEI. I mean, DEI is super important, and it's KPI and so on. But for me, it's an existential superpower. Because then I have in my team people think of what Asia needs, and I have people in my team that thinks of what Europe needs, what the Nordics needs. I have people in my team that thinks of what South Europe needs. I have people in my team that thinking of what Africa needs, what the Middle East needs, and I have people in my team that thinking about Latin America, and people are thinking about North America, and that bringing the different cultures, celebrating one another in different occasions. You have Easter, you have Ramadan, you have Hanukkah, you have Yom Kippur. All this is coming together, creates that, you really see that it gives me also a bigger hope in humanity, that we actually work very, very good together when we have common goals and a common culture foundation that we want to win together, right? And that's why you will hear me talk a lot about the winning culture. It's not as selfish as it sounds. Sometimes it's not. We're gonna work together to win, and that is super important. That's what I strive for every day.
Yeah. Oh, I like it. And I like your example of, that getting that reflection or the feedback from another team in another country. And it also will bond them, right? Because they have to share it. And I think it gives a challenge to the one that needs to explain it, because I know sometimes, it's in your head, right? I know it and I understand it. And this is, and it just makes sense for yourself. But when you actually have to present it or share it, when you're putting the words on it, it's like, oh my God, I didn't think about that, right? Because you have to explain it. So I think there's power in it, and that win-win, what you just are doing, or what your organization is doing. It's bringing the team and breaking down the silos together. So I really like that approach.
Yeah, it's very powerful, and it's great to see, because, we are as strong as our not individual intelligence, but our collective intelligence. And that is, if you look at it from a pure company shareholder value, super important, because one thing is you often see companies and teams is all about one man or a one lady, right? A one-man show or a one-woman show. But for me, the way I look at it, and I always say this to my team, and it's kind of my motto: if I'm the smartest one in the room, we're in trouble, because I'm not the smartest one, right? So we are as strong as our collective intelligence. And if you keep this as a foundation for you, how you build the team, but it takes a lot of courage, because we are all humans and we all have our own insecurities. So everybody wants to be, feel that it's the boss, or she's the boss, or I'm the one in charge. With me, in my leadership style, I like democracy. I like to have a team full of brilliant minds, and not just in my N-1, but all the way across my organization. And you'll be surprised everywhere. To give you another example, one of the things I do, and I'm very, very, it's became like a conviction of mine, like I have to do it. Is everywhere I go, I meet people from all different parts of the organization that are N-4, 5, 6, and 7 in my organization, where I listen to them, I hear their opinion. I can tell you, more often than not, I actually get some of the most brilliant ideas, whether it's for improvement or how to fix something, or actually a brilliant idea where we should innovate it and make it, for the customers that is available offer, from those folks. So, because again, the strong belief that it's collective intelligence and not an individual intelligence.
Yeah, it's good. I always think about sometimes when you get feedback, even if it's a customer, right? Or if it's a colleague, that if it's not on the most positive way that you get the feedback, you have to think it about as a gift, right? Because now you know something that you can actually change this and turn it around, and then you can succeed with that.
Listen, on the gift is the feedback. And I think one of the superpowers that we have in our organization, and I always say it in my team, and it's always on the top of my priority, is so the first superpower is how to work really as a team.
Yeah.
The second superpower is the customer in the center of everything we do.
Yeah.
And that is the win culture, because you work very well together, but in which target? To serve the customer better, to solve their problems, to find the problem and solve it for the customer.
Yeah.
And so if you make this mechanism work in tandem together, this is where you really go in big. And if you look at the most successful companies in the world, and I consider Schneider is one of them, that's exactly what we do. Yeah. And that's exactly what those great companies do.
Yeah, that's nice. What about, so the feedback, I want to go a little bit more personal. How do you know if you're a good leader?
Oh, to be honest, I don't know. No? I'm one of those people that I am myself biggest critic. So I'm, it's always the existential question with me, if I'm enough. As a leader, as a person, I'm always a work in progress. I want to be better. So one of the things I do, I constantly ask for feedback, not just from my superiors in the company, like the CEO, Olivier Blum, or the people that works like my peers. I actually ask everybody for their feedback. There is a lot of structured mechanisms that we follow structurally, and there is other forms of unstructured that they are also incredible. So structured mechanism, like all the teams, we have our engagement surveys, or each company calls it whatever, where we send the people anonymously surveys to fill, asking very, very direct questions about what do you like in the company, what do you like in the structure, what do you like in your job domain, how we can do it better, what is not working, what is working, how we can do, and so on and so forth. And that gives you a lot of, actually in Schneider, people are open. We have a very mentally and I would say psychologically safe environment in the company. I can tell you, I challenge all the way Olivier Blum directly, and I say, no, I don't agree in this, and I think that's what we should do. Maybe sometimes I should do less of that, but I am who I am. And then, so people are really open in giving the feedback, which we take very, very seriously, and then we report it on a monthly and quarterly basis, the progress that we've done with that feedback. So you told us that this is not working. This is what we will do to fix it. And then we come a quarter later and say, okay, we fixed it. Is it working? And we get that engaged feedback. On the other hand, of course, I ask people for their direct feedback. Like I would go in, like when I said in those meetings where I meet talent from across the organization and departments within the company and within my team. And I say, hey, I did that. I presented the strategy for the year. Did it make sense to you? Is that relevant, or you think I'm too far out? And then they give me the feedback. And a lot of the times I do restitution on my behavior, even as a leader. Like I will have a third party that come with my team, and then they will say, okay, the boss is doing this good, he's not doing that good, and he can do better here. And I take this feedback and I work on it. Because the biggest enemy for progress is the illusion that you're in a good spot. And let me repeat it. The biggest hinder for progression is the illusion that you are in a good spot, that you're good. And I think it's my Achilles heel, and also my biggest strength at the same time, is that I always think that I still can do better. I always believe that myself and my organization, which is the most important part of the equation, is the team. We can do better collectively, and we can do better collectively when work better, of course, together, but most importantly, work on ourselves. Where is the blind spots that I can improve, that my team can improve in their leadership, so we have this more cohesive progress together as a team, as individuals, as people. And I can tell you, it's the most phenomenal thing ever.
Yeah. So how will you measure it? Is it the goals? Is it the revenue? Or how do you measure this winning culture?
The winning, of course, there is tangible, there is tangibles, and there is intangibles, right? So the tangibles, of course, are we winning market share? Are we growing? Are we providing the customers with better, faster, more innovative technical solutions and offers? So those are the tangibles. Are we delivering value to the shareholders? So those are all tangibles that You can easily put a scorecard and say, okay, we delivered like yesterday together with more than 2,000 or 3,000 people in my open line within the company. We celebrated that in 2024, we launched more than 40 new offers to the market, right? Yeah. And some of those offers has been so disruptive and so successful. So that's the tangible part. The intangible part, in my opinion, it's also tangible, is how fast do we get there? How good are we working together? And I can tell you, I measured myself even to the micro level of me personally and my team. Like if you asked me 10 years ago about my conflict management skills or how emotional I can get if I disagree with something, right? I was like a volcano there, right? And if you look at me now, no, I would say, okay, give me a day to think this through. Thank you for your point. Thank you for the feedback. Let me go through. Then I put it 2, 3, 4, 5 times in my head. And then I come back with, you know what? You're right. I think that's what we should do. Or you know what? I've really thought about it. I like some of what you said, but here is my other view on it. And you grow. That's also how I measure my growth as a person. I know how I would have reacted 10, 15 years ago on a certain topic and how I react today. And then ultimately, I measure it also of how long does the team stay within the team and within the company. Because if people feel empowered, if the people feel fulfilled, if they feel that they are part of a greater mission, they actually choose to stay no matter how much money you throw at them. So if you stay and you retain your best talent, if you're working better together, if you're delivering good results, you put all this together, then it becomes very tangible.
Yeah, that's a good measurement. I like that one, right? Because your job is more than half of your life. What about personal recognitions, right? Because if you get some personal recognitions, I think you motivate that person or your team. So any examples of what are you doing specific to do this recognition?
We do all types of recognition. Like we just recognize, and unfortunately I cannot spill all the beans because it's still kind of confidential. Just yesterday and the day before came directly from the CEO office, from Olivier Bloom, where we recognized a certain innovation team in my company for providing something ultra disruptive from a technology standpoint. So we have a lot of awards, and the awards come in financial recognition, in moral recognition, in terms of point. We have all this type of recognition. But I think the ultimate recognition is that we give credit to the folks that work on something. I think you can give people a lot of things, but the most important thing, I think, at least for me, is when you work on something and you put, as you said, more than half of your life at work, and then you know what? You're in front of the CEO or in front of the whole global market on a keynote, like we do in Schneider 3-4 times a year, where we say, I don't stand up on stage. The guy or the woman that worked on that innovation, that worked on that project, that worked on delivering that customer value is the one going to present it because she's the one that worked hard on it and she's the brain equity behind it. And that is, in my eyes, is one of the biggest forms of recognition that we give to the people. And then ultimately, to the last part, we recognize people by giving them more responsibilities. So we take a lot of bold bets on talent in my team. We took people that are extremely young and put them in very, very, very high positions in the company. Why? Because we think they can do it. Is it a stretch? Yes, but let's stretch them. Why? Because they did a good job in their domain. They were very disruptive or they were very consistent in the performance that they delivered. Let's take a bold bet on it. You put, again, all this together. This is the ultimate form of recognition. So you're recognized via the normal mechanism, awards, financial reward, and so on and so forth. Then you put them in the center and you give them credit, and so they can owe also their ideas. And then last but not least, you make them progress in the organization to recognize the talent and the value they bring in the organization. Ultimately, this is also back to talent retention. This is what helps you retain talent.
Yeah. No, I like it. What about, and you talked about a little bit already with the cultural differences, right? Because you have a different cultural difference and you have all these, it's a global company, right? With Schneider Electric. So, but how do you make sure that you respect this cultural difference?
I mean, it's, again, this is one of those topics, it's always work in progress, right? Especially in the time age where we live in. And I think the most important fundamental thing for cultural differences to work is that extra layer of humility and empathy. Putting yourself in someone's shoe. right? Being socially aware, reading the room, reading the body language of the people. If you said something or you push too hard in a culture that does not work well, is that you take a step back and you say, hey, sorry, this is my intention, or that's what I'm trying to say. So you clarify and so on. In Schneider, we're very blessed because the company is structured, like I told you, we have 5 big global hubs between Dubai, Hong Kong, the United States, and Europe, where we have. So the company is structured in a way that the cultural differences has been built. Jean-Pascal Tricoire, the current chairman and the former CEO of Schneider, has done an incredible job in building this cultural cohesiveness. You have a lot of global leaders. I mean, look at me. I control one of the largest division in Schneider Electric, and I was born and raised in Egypt. And you, as you move on with your progression, you look at the leadership in the company. You see the diversity. So there is that embedded behavior of different cultures. Now, how do we make sure that it stays consistent and cohesive? Of course, there is a lot of cultural trainings that we do, but I think it's also once you are inside the machine and you see how we treat each other with respect, empathy, understanding, then you start to understand, okay, this company, that's the way they like to behave. But it's never, let me say it this way, cultural integration and cohesiveness is not a destination, it's a journey. So also it's one of those things you can never take for granted, because it's an ever work, because you can have one outlier in the team that can create a big gap. So you're being aware of it, always addressing it, working on it. We have a lot of in my team meetings, for example, we dedicate time for team building activities where we share parts of our personal lives, we share parts of what we like to do in our free time. So you get to understand a little bit behind the work mentality, so you know how to deal with them in the work mentality.
It helps, right? It builds some trust when you know a little bit more about the person. But you need to, I think, with the whole company culture, even if it's remote or you're in the office or you have these global hubs, a company culture, you have to keep feeding it, right? Because it's a living organism, and you have to be sure that it's in good health, like we have to be in good health. But
and I maybe I was a bit fortunate in my life. If you look at my career, I worked in more than almost all 6 continents. Visited almost all the countries in the world, and I got to experience the true essence of culture. And maybe it's just how my brain is wired, but I always worked on. I was always blessed with always looking where is the commonalities and not where are the differences. So I always look at what's common, where is the base where I can build upon. What can I do, right? And this is how I got my know-how of dealing with this, but it does not mean that we don't also coach a lot of our young talents on leadership, on cultural differences, on cultural integration, and so on. So we do a lot of work on that. To deal with it's not just culture. Sometimes it's also different personalities that you have to navigate. Because there is not 2 people the same in the same culture. I think you know that very, very well.
Oh yeah, I know. It's funny.
I mean, I got to spend a lot of times in the Nordics, in Sweden, in Denmark, in Norway. And I can tell you, everybody talk about Scandinavia as it's one thing, and I tell them, no, it's not. Even going from Oslo to Stockholm is different.
It's different. It's only if we have if there's like a World Cup or something, right? A soccer tournament. We're rooting for each other.
And even there, it's very funny because you're always going for your country all the way till they go out, and then you go for another country, and then you go for another country.
If there's only one country left, you go and you support that one in Scandinavia.
Then you say, you know what, they played a good game, and then you move on.
We put the positive hat on. No, I really like that, because I think we just said, right, I'm from Denmark and I live in the United States now. I've been here many, many years, since, more than 20 years. And it's funny because when I meet somebody from Denmark, right, suddenly we have that in common. Not that it's person that will be my best friend from now on, but it's like that common ground, and then you connect. It could also be that you play a sport, right? And you meet somebody in your team and you play the same sport, or you have a passion for something, and that's what can actually build that connections and become that winning culture, right, in a company. But you need to make sure that you can share these kind of smaller things that suddenly can bond a team together.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. What about if you have to give an advice to a new leader? in the industry, what kind of advice would you give?
Oh, you are in it for a treat. First and foremost, I think it's a great industry where, it's an industry that keep evolving for the past 150 years, and it will continue to grow for the next 150 years. Electrification is not going anywhere. If anything, it's becoming more and more important.
Yeah.
From a leadership standpoint, I think the biggest advice I always give is be humble and listen. My grandpa used to tell me this, God gave us 2 ears and one mouth for a good reason. So you need to listen at least double what you say. And this has been a truly a life-changing advice. And the older I get and the more I exercise it, I get to see the value of that. So listening to your people, listening to your customers, listening to the people within the organization is super, super critical. Learning how to develop a coherent way of even reading the weak signals, understanding where is the industry going, where is your team going, what are the main area of blockage, or where is the next thing and a big thing is going to happen. Pardon me.
Yeah.
Is what makes great leaders greater. And if you want to really make a difference, you have to have this sixth sense of reading, listening, not just by your ears, but by your heart, by your eyes, by your intuition to everything happening around you. So listening and being humble is super important, because what also tend to happen once you get to those senior leadership roles, a lot of people fall in the trap of arrogance. I have known it. I have seen it a lot. I have seen this. I've went to 6 continents. I've visited this. It's very easy to get complacent and arrogant. And that is what I call it the beginning of decline.
Yeah.
And as long as you stay humble and you say, no, I don't know anything. The industry is changing every day. There is a new super chip coming every day from NVIDIA and the others.
Yeah.
There is a new technology called AI, and now we have Gen AI, and I don't know what the future will bring on top of Gen AI. And at least my generation, AI we just studied it in the university. Yeah. Right. So, and at the time, everybody was saying, "Are you crazy? You're even taking a course in artificial intelligence and programming?" And guess what? It's the new frontier of economical growth. So, being humble is super important. Don't be arrogant and listen and learn. Yeah. Continue to learn, but you will not learn if you don't listen. That's why I said listen, because under this listen, you can put a lot of things.
Yeah. I like that. I also think keep asking questions, even though if you've been in an organization for many years, because I know when I have started in different organizations, I started a lot of questions, right? Because you need navigating and finding out, how is this organization? Who's doing what? Who's responsible? What's the dynamic? What's the company culture, right? All these questions. But in some places you see that if you're onboarding, right, suddenly at a certain point, this person is not asking questions anymore, which could be fine. But I think to keep the momentum and keeping the excitement and looking for how to improve, just keep asking questions.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. Curiosity is very important.
Yeah.
It's part of our values in Schneider Electric is curiosity, because if you're not curious, you're not going to ask questions, and it's not just about asking questions. That's why I love the word curiosity. It's about challenging the status quo. Like I can tell you, people say to me a lot, "Oh, you're in that age and you reach this and that." And I say, and they ask me what advice you'll give us. And I say, I'm just curious. I'm curious. I'm a little bit of a rebel as well, which I don't highly recommend, but you do it at your own risk. When I worked across my career I only worked in 2 companies, and people will tell me, "Oh, we never done that before because this way works." And I said, "Okay, but why that won't work?" Yeah. The fact that it worked all along does not mean it will work in the next year. And having that curiosity with a little bit of challenging the status quo is super important. That's why curiosity is very, very, very important.
Yeah. No, it is. It is. I love it. I think when I finished college many, many years ago, I was like, "Oh, I'm done," and now I'm just get my job, and now I'm like, I'm just keep learning, right? And I love, if there's anything with YouTube, I love YouTube. It's like, if there's anything you were like, I need that answer, right? Let me find it. Oh, I need to find out how to solve this. YouTube, right? It's a great, great source. So just
I agree. All this digital media, social media, I mean, now you can also ask ChatGPT, but you take it with a bit of, at least till now, with a lime slice on top. You know, you take it with a grain of salt, and but anywhere where you can get extra knowledge is important. I think the most important part is you validate this knowledge, right? Because at least I grew up in an environment when it's in the textbook, it's in the textbook. Right. And now you need to make sure that you're getting the right information. But I wholeheartely agree with you. Yes.
Yeah. But you have options now, right? Of course, you have to have the critical thinking. But I love that you have options to learn. That's just amazing. So, Michael, this has been a journey. I have my last question. So, even though I asked you before, right, to say, what kind of what will you give of advice, right, to another leader? But I want to ask you, Michael, what kind of advice would you give yourself if you're going to look back maybe 10 or 15 years?
Be bold, be bolder. If I look back 10 years, I would say to young me, be bolder, you're smart, and it's okay to do mistakes. So go bolder, go bigger, go harder. There is nothing cold enough, and you can always strive for more. It's my personality. I think 10 years ago, I was maybe it's also the age factor, but I not that I was less bolder. I think I was very bold still, but I think I could have even done more, went into a bigger ventures and so on. So the advice that I give for young people now is just go do mistakes. It's okay. It's, I can tell you, when you're in your 20s and 30s and you do mistakes, you bounce back very, very fast. Very, very fast. Actually, if a matter of fact, in your 40s too. But again, I might be just, me.
But knowledge, right? And the experience of the knowledge, and then also be open about that. Yes, we do make mistakes, and everybody does it, right? But it's vulnerable. It's just like everybody's not like, oh, let me share, right? So I think it takes time to be that bold. But I like the advice.
Yeah. No, I was always told that I'm impatient and I do this, and I was like, and then I started to try to confirm a little bit, but now that I look at it, I was like, man, I was very patient. I should have been more impatient. I should have made bigger bets. I should have, pushed more. And not that I have any regrets. I think I've done the best I can, and I will continue to do better than the best I can. But you can do more. But it's all about the drive, right? Like in all those younger, earlier career talents, the advice I always try to give them is just be bolder, think bigger. And you know what? Because if you think about 100, if you get 50, that's already better than the 0 where you're in.
Yeah, right.
Don't be afraid that you will fail in 50. Be happy that you will succeed in 50. So go bigger.
Yeah, go figure. I love it. So I really like our conversation. If I'm like reflecting a little bit already here, right? I like where you said like the kind versus the nice culture. So be kind, right? That's definitely a milestone, or maybe not a milestone, but like a stepping stone, right? It's so important to have this kindness everywhere.
You can be personable and professional. You can be I think I am, into a great extent, or at least I hope I am. There is no guards rails when you talk to me if you're in our organization or anywhere, actually.
Yeah.
I respond to all the messages I get. I try to be as approachable and as personal as possible. But at the end of the day, I think I'm very professional. We're going to deliver a result. I'm going to have a very tough conversation with someone, but I'm going to do it with empathy, humility, and we're going to, as we call it, you lived in America now for a long time, like me. And we'll hash it out and we will move on. And as long as you do this with respect and humility, you can have the tough conversation while being personable. You don't need to be this grumpy little old boss, and you can have a joke. And I crack jokes in the most serious situations in our team. Yeah. Like when I get it, I see it so tense and everybody's like, going into the defensive mood, I will crack a joke and everybody will lighten up.
Yeah.
And then we're going to continue to have the tough conversation 1 minute after.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go for a drink.
Yes, right. And that's how you build a good team, and that's how you get your superpower. As a team as well. So I love it. So Michael, thank you so much for being on this episode today. I learned a lot, and now we know each other, which I think is even more awesome. So thank you so much for spending the time with me, and I hope all the listeners enjoyed listening to this episode.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to be with you. You're phenomenal. I love the energy. I love the conversation. It's very dear and close to my heart. Keep doing great, and I will continue to follow you as I always did, and looking forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Leadership in Manufacturing podcast. I love that you're listening. Please find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, and be sure to subscribe and rate us. Also, follow our LinkedIn page and Instagram, and check out leadershipinmanufacturing.com for previous episodes, blog posts, and our newsletter. So let's continue this journey together to become better leaders in the electronics industry. Remember, stay curious, keep learning. See you next time.